What's up, guys? It's Dan from Coin Bureau Trading, back at it again with another crypto market update. Today we've got XRP, Stellar, and Hedera. I'm sure you're all wondering what these cryptos are up to. Are they about to break out? Are they about to break down? Spoiler alert, I think all three are about to experience a pretty sizable breakout here in the short term. They're all about to break above some pretty key resistance trend lines that they've been struggling to get above for months. If this is the kind of content that you enjoy, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ping that notification bell. Before we get started, do keep in mind that nothing in this video is financial advice. It's just my personal analysis of these cryptos. Your analysis could be different, and if it is, that's awesome, because the more difference of opinion that we have, the better traders and the better investors we're all going to become. With that being started, guys, I want to address the elephant in the room, and that's the fact that, whether it's XRP, XLM, or HBAR, or any other crypto for that matter, we're probably not going to see significant gains until we get clarity around the tariffs, which of course are the main reason why the crypto market has been struggling over the last 2.5 months, give or take. I just want to come out and say that straight up. And of course, it's something that a lot of people know already, but it's something worth keeping in mind that until there's clarity on the macro front, these crypto catalysts aren't going to matter. This is something I know that's been frustrating a lot of people, that we've seen all these crazy announcements like strategic Bitcoin reserve and all that stuff, and it's had zero impact on price. The reason why is basically because investors are uncertain because of the tariffs, and they're not willing to allocate to risk assets yet. I do believe that's something that's going to be resolved in the coming weeks. Of course, there's no way of knowing when, but in the interim, I still do think that we could see small moves, and we have seen some small moves, right? Like 5%, 10%, 20% in the short term. And I do think that XRP, XLM, and HBAR could see those types of moves here in the next week or two. So of course, that begs the question of what could be the catalyst that take these cryptos higher in the short term, causing a nice, not like a massive rally, but like a small 5, 10, 20% move. And I think in XRP's case, it's going to be the XRPL EVM sidechain, which is currently in testnet. Some of you will know that testnet launched at the end of March. So far, things have been going great. We're about 2 weeks and a half in. I suspect that mainnet launch will be coming sooner rather than later. I don't know what the exact date is going to be, but I do know that once that mainnet launches, we're going to see a huge increase in liquidity, in kind of like crypto native liquidity, you could say, in XRP's ecosystem, and also the crypto ecosystem more broadly. That's because we're likely to see a lot of XRP whales borrowing against their XRP borrowing stablecoins to invest in other altcoins within XRP's ecosystem and other ecosystems that are connected to the XRPL EVM sidechain, which of course are going to be Ethereum and also Cosmos, because the XRPL EVM sidechain is a Cosmos-based crypto, for those who didn't know. So I do think that, again, the mainnet launch of the XRPL EVM sidechain will probably be, like, of all the possible catalysts, it's probably somewhere at the top, let's say in the top 3, that could cause XRP to pump in the short term, which of course brings us to the chart here. And of course, we're on the daily as always. The one thing that I'm going to start by noting, guys, is that of course, when it comes to drawing trend lines, there's a lot of debate of like, okay, should you be starting, let's say from the top of the wick or from the body, or all this type of stuff. I know that there's like a specific, let's say, textbook way that you're supposed to do it. But the thing is that with crypto, guys, crypto prices tend to be so volatile that if you try and say, okay, I'm going to measure from the wicks, you're going to get a lot of deviation, a lot of stuff that doesn't necessarily make sense. So the way that I try and draw my trend lines is that I go and I look at, like, okay, is there an invisible kind of like sloping line to the downside or to the upside that crypto prices have been struggling to get above? And in this case, I would say it's quite clear that the trend line is somewhere in this range. You can make the case it's a little bit higher, a little bit lower, but it's clear to see that it's somewhere in this range. And what's really interesting, guys, is we can see that like just on the standard like support and resistance, that XRP of course has been holding the support around $2. It did see a temporary deviation here below $2 as a result of long liquidations. There's probably lots of people that had a stop loss somewhere around 1.95 or something, and when there was a break below that level, there was like basically automated selling, which of course is what makes crypto trading so difficult. But point being, guys, is that we now have this long-term resistance trend line is basically somewhere around, well, I guess $2.1 roughly, and then we have the long-term support somewhere around $2. So we're basically in this very, very narrow range where eventually we're going to see either a break to the upside or a break to the downside. And of course, my opinion, the whole time that we've been grinding down here, I've been saying that, the risk is to the upside, and eventually we're going to see a break to the upside and prices continuing to rise. And of course, unfortunately, XRP and many other cryptos have continued grinding lower, but nothing about this is abnormal or even necessarily bearish. It's just, consolidating, and eventually there's going to be an actual big break up or a big break down. and I do think the chances of a break up are very high, especially when we've seen so many months of just like gradual downwards price action. When everyone is just so beaten down, a lot of people are starting to go short because they think it's all over. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of bearish headlines around XRP saying it's about to collapse. So of course, when you start seeing stuff like that, that's typically a sign that we're going to see a break to the upside. Of course, that begs the question of how high XRP could go here in the short term. I don't think it'll go higher than like 2.25 or $2.3 because we can see there's, even without drawing any lines, you can see there's quite a bit of resistance as we start to approach this like 2.4, 2.5 dollar level, which makes sense because that's like a key psychological level that I'm sure there's going to be probably potentially some profit taking from people who, let's say, bought around $2 and they're just looking for a short term trade, right? You're probably going to see lots of selling around that level. So something closer, let's say, again, to 2.25 or 2.3 is probably how high XRP could rally in the short term. Whether that's later this week or next week, the honest answer is no one knows, but I do think it's going to happen sooner than later. And that would be, a nice little cheeky at 10% pump, which is not too shabby. But of course, you can juice that up with a little bit of leverage. And of course, that brings me to the Coin Bureau deals page. Of course, if you guys might have noticed, we were just using Binance, where the Coin Bureau, exclusively through the Coin Bureau, we have a 20% trading fee discount and up to $600 in bonuses. Taking advantage of this deal is super simple. Just click the link down in the description. It'll take you to a page that looks like this. Just enter your email or your phone number. It takes 2 minutes to sign up. Binance has every single crypto you could possibly need, and you get a trading fee discount. The exchange gets a new user, and we get a cut of the trading fees. That's how we make our money. We're not sponsored by Ethereum. We're not sponsored by Cardano. We're not sponsored by Solana or any crypto project. We don't care what crypto you like, so long as you're looking to buy, sell, trade, or even store your crypto. The Coin Bureau deals page has everything you need for that. We have a bunch of deals on different exchanges if you can't use Binance or don't like Binance. And we also have deals on hardware wallets. And again, these deals are completely free. They don't cost you a thing, and you can save a lot of money in fees and a lot of money, I guess, on hardware wallets. So take advantage of those deals using the link down in the description before they're gone. With that being said, guys, moving on now over to Stellar. This begs the question, of course, of what could the catalyst be that takes XLM higher in the short term. It's possible that we'll get some announcements tomorrow related to this event that they have coming up here. But the catalyst that I think is actually going to have the biggest impact, guys, is one that I've been talking about for a while now, and that's basically something related to tokenized RWAs or stablecoins. And I've been highlighting the fact that the stablecoin supply on Stellar has been growing really fast. It's up like 3x over the last 4 or 5 months, which is pretty crazy. And that, of course, you could say like this activity here doesn't look super organic, but that doesn't change the fact that over the last year we've seen pretty sizable growth in stablecoins on Stellar, and that foreshadows again either something related to payments or something related to tokenized real world assets, which will trade primarily against stablecoins. So this is definitely something to watch, and it's something that's going to be coming, or at least hopefully we get some developments there, some announcements in the next 1 or 2 weeks. Of course, that brings me here to the XLM chart. And as you guys can see, same idea as with XRP. You could make the argument that, oh, this trend line should be a little bit higher, a little bit lower. But I would say it's quite clear that it's somewhere in this range. And we can quite clearly see that XLM, similarly to XRP, has a key psychological level and key resistance zone somewhere around 22 cents or 20 cents, let's say. And you can see that this resistance trend line is now coming. Sorry, it was key support level. Not sure if I misspoke there, but key support level around 22 cents, and then the resistance trend line is grinding down lower here around 23 cents. So of course this creates kind of like a squeeze. And, to the untrained eye, or I guess to the inexperienced crypto trader, you might look at this and say, oh, this is a triangle pattern and it's going to break to the downside. But then you realize, wait a minute, if it does, then it's going to zero. And as a fun fact, guys, this is something that I saw in a lot of charts in the previous crypto bull market when I was first learning how to trade. I saw all these like triangle patterns. I'm like, man, if this breaks to the downside, it's going to zero. And what would almost always happen is it would break to the upside, because it's almost intuitively you can understand. It's like, okay, I could understand how XLM could, let's say, fall into the 50% or 40%, but for it to go to zero, I don't think that's going to happen, right? Anyway, it's a little bit it's an interesting thing. It's like to kind of give yourself a gut check, I guess. But anyways, this begs the question of how high XLM could go in the short term if it does get a little bit of a pump. I think it could go somewhere around 30 cents, maybe 33 cents, so potentially a 30% gain, let's say. 30 to 40% gain in the short term, but it really depends on if it gets a strong enough catalyst to cause that. And of course, there is a little bit of resistance here moving up around 30 cents. So maybe it'll get stuck here around 30 cents and end up with, I don't know, like a 25% gain or something like that. And of course, we do need to wait until XLM breaks above this resistance trend line. And again, that might not happen tomorrow, might not happen in like this week. It could happen in a week from now. XLM could continue grinding lower, maybe down to something like 21 cents or even 20 cents, and then see the breakout above, right? right? That's completely possible because that's what we've seen basically over the last, 3 or 4 months or even longer. But eventually XLM will break above, and I do think it's going to continue its long-term uptrend, which a lot of altcoins are still in. Of course, some smaller ones not so much, but Bitcoin and most major altcoins, like the larger ones, are still in a long-term uptrend. Like if we're talking over the last year or two. Anyways, guys, moving on now to Hedera. This is where things get interesting and where I have to put on my little tinfoil hat again. The one thing that I find really interesting about Hedera here is that they announced that they have this AI agents hackathon that's going on between April 11th and May 2nd. Chances are when that hackathon is over, we'll get some announcements out that could potentially cause some buzz around HBAR. But the reason why I'm brushing off the tinfoil hat for this one is that a lot of people think that the AI narrative is kind of dead. We had like the AI agents thing kind of pop off like late last year, but specifically among stuff like stocks, like people think that ever since the launch of DeepSeek in January, they think that the AI thing is over. All these Mag 7 stocks, right? All these tech stocks that have been holding up the market, they were all being driven by AI, and AI seems to have fallen on the back burner, let's say. But what I think, guys, is that we're going to probably get some pretty big announcements over the next few months related to AI, like GPT-5. Tesla's doing this full self-driving in June, which I think is going to involve some element of like AGI or whatever, right? They're going to call it. But I do think the other thing to watch is also AI agents. This seems to be the direction that Meta is leaning. And if you think about it, guys, we've seen all this like AI hardware and infrastructure and everything being built out, and everyone is wondering, like what's the actual use case going to be here? And I think that many of these use cases will come in the form of like AI agents, right? And that's where things are going to get really interesting, and where I could see HBAR getting caught up in this potential second wave of like AI hype among stocks. That's probably going to take markets a lot higher. Of course, this is something that no one is talking about now. Everyone thinks we're entering a bear market in stocks, but I'm not so sure, guys. Most of the stock market has been driven by AI, and it looks like there's still a few catalysts coming up for AI that could take those big tech stocks higher, and in turn take the rest of the market higher, along with crypto. Anyways, guys, this brings me to the chart here for HBAR. Again, same thing, basically since early December. So what's that, like 5 months now? HBAR's just been grinding lower along this trend line. Of course, it did see a couple of deviations above, but it's been grinding lower, grinding lower, grinding lower, and now we're all the way back down to this kind of a support level, let's say somewhere around 15 cents. Again, there was a little bit of a deviation below this level as a result of liquidations. Probably people who went long with stop losses got liquidated there. But now you can see long-term resistance trend line falling down somewhere around 16 cents. Long-term support, which we can see just like, visibly with like our naked eye here, is somewhere around 14, 15 cents, let's say. So it's only a matter of time before we see HBAR, you could say it's a triangle pattern or whatever else, but a matter of time before HBAR breaks out or breaks down, right? And I do think, and as I've been saying the whole time that we've been grinding down here, I've been saying the risks are to the upside, something that gives people PTSD. But I do believe that the chances of HBAR breaking above this level are higher than breaking below. And if it does break above, then the levels to watch there, I guess in the short term would be something around 20 cents, nice key psychological level, obvious zone of resistance, around a 25% pump. But the thing is that compared to XLM and XRP, HBAR doesn't have that much resistance on the way up. So we could actually potentially see HBAR rallying all the way up to something like 25 cents or 26 cents, which would be like a 50 or 60% gain, which would be pretty crazy. But I do think that this is possible, especially if the catalyst that causes HBAR to rally is this AI agent thing. And if we do start to see AI agents taking off, then it wouldn't surprise me at all if HBAR starts rallying like way up here, somewhere 25, 26 cents, like in the next, I don't know, week or two, let's say. That wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. But again, we should take things one step at a time. First level to watch, I would say, is around 20 cents. And hopefully we'll get some announcement potentially related to AI agents in the next week or two that will take HBAR to that level. And I think it's only a matter of time. Anyways, guys, if you did find that information helpful, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, ping that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.